we've got you covered. From WSIL, this is News 3 at 4.
Good afternoon, I'm Mark Kiesling.
And I'm Brooke Slyer. We started off the morning pretty gray and cloudy, but we can see some blue skies in parts of our region.
Storm Track 3's Emily Pike is here with us. And Emily, that sunshine is a bit deceiving out there. Not quite as warm as it looks.
Well, you gotta at least wear something a little dark colored, and then you get that sun that just heats, and that black color absorbs that. But for some of you guys out there like myself who chose the lighter color things, it is still very cool out there. Those winds still coming from the northwest. So right now we are looking across the region. Some of us seeing the mostly sunny sky there in Perryville. Others not so lucky to have fully cleared out just yet. We're still looking at a partly cloudy sky there for Carbondale. And we are going to continue to see these cooler temps staying around. Right there you can see all the way from Mount Vernon all the way down to the south where Kennett's sitting at 45. There's not too much of a difference between north to south. Typically we're talking about a few degrees difference, but cool air staying with us. Even as we go through the evening hours, that clear sky is not going to be quite our delight as we go through the evening hours. We're going to be talking about some pretty cool temperatures going into those 20s. We will have a freeze warning coming back into effect for our southern counties there in Tennessee and southeast Missouri. That starts at 10 this evening until 10 tomorrow. So when I come back, not only are we going to be talking about the cold temperatures, but we're also going to be talking about that chance of rain and when it will be coming around.
The Illinois Supreme Court is taking up the Safety Act. Justices heard oral arguments today in Springfield.
The elimination of cash bail is part of the act, and that's causing a lot of controversy. It means judges could no longer require people to pay money to leave jail while awaiting trial unless they're a flight risk or a safety risk. Law enforcement and state's attorneys across the state believe this makes communities less safe by allowing criminals back on the streets. A judge in Kankakee County ruled it unconstitutional, and 65 counties throughout Illinois filed that lawsuit. Jim Rowe, the state's attorney for Kankakee County, had this to say.
State's attorneys, prosecutors have an inherent interest in ensuring that we can move cases through the court system, that we can secure a defendant's appearance at trial. The sheriff has to ensure effectively the safety of every law enforcement officer under his charge. This act requires them to serve, for instance, notice to appear and then a warrant on 2 occasions. We've now doubled the number of instances where law enforcement is going to come into contact with perhaps a fugitive or a very dangerous individual.
He added criminal reform should be added to ballots so voters can make the choice. Meanwhile, those in favor of ending cash bail say it's hard for low-income defendants to pay their bond. If they stay in jail, they could lose their jobs, housing, health care, and more. The Deputy Solicitor General of Illinois represented the Attorney General. They want to reverse the decision by the Kankakee County judge and keep the Safety Act in place.
First, Article 1's bail clause grants defendants the right to seek pretrial release. It does not require the state to maintain the institution of monetary bail. Second, the General Assembly has concurrent constitutional authority to regulate pretrial procedure in Illinois, as it has done for 6 decades via the Code of Criminal Procedure.
The Illinois Supreme Court took the case under advisement, but a decision could take weeks. We'll continue to file this case and bring you any updates.
Illinois lawmakers are trying to determine if former corrections officers can still have access to guns. One proposed bill wants former Sheriff Department correctional officers and state prison guards to have concealed carry clearance. Most states with these bills don't include prison guards. Some people say they're worried that bill has not been reviewed enough. The lawmaker who introduced it says he is open to revising the bill. He claims his biggest concern is keeping Illinoisans safe.
And more federal gun laws are here. President Joe Biden signed an executive order today, and that does a number of things. It increases the number of background checks to buy guns, promote more secure storage of firearms, and ensure law enforcement agencies are getting the most out of the bipartisan gun control law put into place last summer.
The Justice Department and the Securities and Exchange Commission are both in the early stages of investigations into the Silicon Valley Bank collapse.
The failures of the Silicon Valley and Signature Bank are placing more focus on the economy. New Labor Department figures show inflation at 6%. ABC's Justin Finch reports from Washington.
From the West Coast to the White House, some relief now that depositors at regional institutions, Silicon Valley Bank and Signature Bank, are no longer locked out of their accounts.
Learned my lesson, and we're not going to put the money all in one place like I did here, so I'm going to spread it around.
Financial regulators stepping in over the weekend to guarantee account holders at both banks would have full access to their money. President Biden underscoring U.S. banks, not taxpayers, are covering the losses.
The money will come from the fees that banks pay into the Deposit Insurance Fund.
In Washington, the Justice Department and Securities and Exchange Commission are each investigating Silicon Valley Bank's collapse, a typical next step after large companies or banks go under. Both the DOJ and SEC declined to comment. Regional bank stocks saw large sell-offs on Wall Street Monday. Today, signs of relief.
I think it's going to take a while for Wall Street to process all of this.
The Federal Reserve, preparing for its next meeting on interest rates, now is expected to consider the SVP and Signature Bank fallout and new consumer price index data, measuring how much Americans pay for goods and services, now showing inflation at 6%, down from 6.4 in January.
The Fed now has to really rethink how much more aggressive do they want to get with interest rates. I mean, if they stop raising interest rates now, does that mean inflation will start to pick up?
And a final decision from the Federal Reserve on interest rates is due out next Wednesday. Justin Finch, ABC News, Washington.
The Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation is a U.S. agency that protects you against losing your money if an insured bank fails. It was created during the Great Depression. It was intended to restore trust in the American banking system. Its mission is to prevent panic from collapsed institutions like the Silicon Valley Bank failure from spreading through the financial system. FDIC insurance covers a range of accounts from checking, savings, and money market accounts, along with certificates of deposit, cashier checks, and similar banking tools.
Well, the federal government is quickly trying to ease uncertainty after those two banks collapsed.
Local experts say what happened with Silicon Valley and Signature banks are unique and should not impact banks in our area. News 3's Paul Wilcoxon explains.
When banks like Silicon Valley and Signature Bank collapse, one of the big questions people ask is, can that happen to my bank? Well, according to Banterra Bank President Jeff May, there's one big difference between those banks and your local bank.
Banks here in Illinois, we're almost all funded by insured deposits, and that's a key word, insured deposits, whereas those banks were not.
When you walk into your local bank, it's not uncommon to see the sign FDIC. But what is FDIC? Created in the 1930s, the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation is a federally backed insurance set during the Depression and hopes to bring confidence to consumers to their banks. Typically, deposits up to $250,000 are insured by the full faith and credit of the United States government. Coming up, you'll hear from an SIU economics professor on what these two bank collapses could mean to the area. That's coming up on News 3 at 6. Reporting from Marion, Paul Wilcoxon, News 3.